Good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 58 of Restitching the Tapestry. We are coming to you live for the first time in 1080p high definition. And I am here with a new webcam with a wide angle lens and a new microphone that has higher quality audio. And Ari is here now formally as a co-host through StreamYard's system, which means they can click on comments, do banners, and do all sorts of different really cool things. So we're upgrading. Like, we have upgraded. So we're pretty excited about that. So it's good to see you all tonight. Tonight's episode is about Nanowrimo, and we're going to be talking about that, our histories with it, what we're currently doing with it, so on and so forth. Before we get started with any of that, though, Ari, how have you been doing, and what have you been up to?
I am totally fantastic. I've been doing a bunch of writing, and we're going to look at that because I've been participating in NaNoWriMo this year, and I have been sleeping, and I cleaned my apartment today.
Oh, I haven't been doing that. Cleaning is so far out of my brain. But I commend you for cleaning. That's good.
Yeah.
So speaking of NaNoWrimo, Ari has done a live stream on their channel, where they have literally live written part of their novel that they're currently writing, and it's super duper awesome. So go check out that stream because it's super therapeutic. I know last night it was so relaxing listening to Ari type that I literally wrote a poem for the first time in like a month and a half. So it's like after my book came out, I was just like, I need to take a break from poetry for a while. Done. But Ari successfully brought me back to life, and here it is again happening. So thank you for that, my friend. All right, so how I've been doing lately, if you're curious, work's been hella busy, but I've been doing well. I've been I've been doing a little bit of writing, but I've mostly been adjusting to new technology. I've been using this new computer that I got. It's been helping me drastically with regard to my vision because I was having a really hard time grading on a small screen. So now, like, I'm not like looking like a grumpy grandmother, trying to do grading.
And
So
it's so cool that you got a desktop finally. You joined the desktop club.
I know, like, I feel like desktops are underrated. Like, we've gotten to this point where people have wanted smaller and smaller and smaller mobile devices, so on and so forth. But there's just something so nice about having a desktop, being able to go to one location, have everything in one location, it being a device that has higher processing capabilities, greater space. It's nice. I like it.
It's definitely nice. I love my desktop.
We have upgraded. Cheers to that. So tonight we have Arby. Hello, my friend. It's good to see you. We have Leo, who is here joining us, who has been playing Animal Crossing. Leo, I just added you as a friend on the Switch. Ari, I don't think I've added you as a friend on the Switch yet.
I have not been playing my Switch lately, and it's very unfortunate because I have Animal Crossing. It's just like, and it's charging. It's charging right now, but I'm just like, oh, I'll get to it eventually.
Okay, so to be fair, it's probably good that you're not playing it right now because you're focused solely on NaNoWrimo. If you played Animal Crossing with its new update, you would be consumed like I've been. Like, I am the gayest little interior designer that I've always wanted to be because
That's
of this
amazing.
new update. So because before that, I thought that Animal Crossing was, no offense to people who love it, I thought it was kind of boring. I preferred Stardew Valley because I think there's a lot more to do in that. But once they rolled out this update, like I feel like it's completely changed the game for me. Like I love it. It's super fun. And now the next thing that I'm looking forward to is the upcoming Pokemon games that are coming out. So
I so my island is it's not very good. It's very like backwards. Like I'm not very far in the game, so like I don't have like a lot of, I have some bricks buildings, but like I don't, I need to like make roads and stuff, and like I have all this stuff I want to do, and like I'm just not quite there yet. I'm still like trying to bridge all of my like islands together.
that's kind of where I am too. Although with the new update now I can go like interior design people's houses and stuff like that. What's ironic about that is my house looks like a little trash shack. Like my plants are on the floor. I don't have any I have a bed and plants. That's what comprises my house. So almost lifelike when I think about it. Just kidding. All right. So before we get talking about our topic for tonight, per the usual, let's go over our show's mission statement, okay? Many witness different atrocities, large or small, that fray the social fabric around us, and much of the time, many may feel powerless and know not how to address such things. This fray has gotten worse with the rise of social media, being that we are able to share innate trauma collectively as it goes viral, and we're able to watch this unfold in real time on a mass scale and share in a collective grief and outrage. Of course, a lot of these negative things often happen to marginalized communities, and it's our goal through this show to use our privilege to not only teach ourselves, but also perpetuate what we learn in some way. That way we might be able to at least develop a better understanding and eventually lead to making some sort of difference. um, and of course, in these conversations that we've been having, creativity has been brought up a lot because through creative outlets, that's one way that historically speaking, one can create change, right? So tonight, because we're talking about NaNoWriMo, it's pretty, I would say, applicable, considering novels and fiction have, I mean, and I don't think NaNoWriMo has to just be fiction, right? It can be like
No, you
non,
can make anything as long as it's 50,000 words.
yeah, like it can be anything. That's what makes it so beautiful. So I think obviously that's a pretty good segue into our first introductory question before we talk about what NaNoWriMo actually is. Okay. So what do we as artists often do to challenge ourselves on a regular basis?
Oh my goodness. So I'm doing NaNoWriMo, but I've also done other challenges, like as far as like doing art challenges, and I just like to do like prompts every so often just to like see the world differently. These challenges, what they do is they like create a space to like work on something in a new way. So like it's kind of like a motivating thing, like, oh, I have to get to the end of this challenge. I have to get to this word count today. I have to do this drawing today. And it motivates you to do it more, because especially when you do it online, there are so many other people doing it, and it creates like this like group culture of like, hey, you can do it, you can stay motivated, you can get through this. And I've gotten stuck on stuff, and I've had people like, oh, well, what if you did this? And I'm like, that's a great idea.
That's really amazing. I love that. Like this kind of like synergy of encouragement and creativity happening simultaneously, right?
Mhm.
Um
How do you
for
challenge yourself?
I in so many different ways. It's some self-defeating ways. But for me, what I like to do, like I do like to do some of the challenges. I've invented challenges, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. Mostly regarding poetry, but I've sometimes, like when I have free time from school, I will make a goal for myself to write like a poem a day. And Ara, you know, for me, one poem a day is like an assembly line of you know, whereas I normally write like maybe a poem or two a week. Like I'm pretty slow to produce work, surprisingly, considering I've released 2 books in the span of 2 years, but I digress. Um,
There
um,
are people doing NaNoWriMo that are writing poetry books. And what they're doing is they're not writing 50,000 words, they're only writing like 20,000 words.
that makes sense, honestly, when you think about it. And I would argue that you could change the wording level too. Like I know from both of my books, Feats of Alchemy is like maybe a bit over 10,000 words, and Carbon Footprint was like 8,000 words. So I guess it really depends on the style of poetry people write as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but other ways I challenge myself, I often challenge myself more when it comes to journaling. I usually make it my goal to write a journal every day or every other day. And surprisingly, it's a goal that I stick to pretty well. Like for some reason, I journal quite religiously. I think probably it's because it's an easier mode of getting my feelings out more quickly,
Yeah.
as opposed to poetry, which takes a bit more intricate thought and, you know, tinkering and researching, going back and forth and deleting, you know, so on and so forth. Whereas journaling is like just word vomit.
I know it's like I love journaling, but it seems like, and I haven't done it lately, but it just seems like it's like a way to like get yourself into that creative mode.
Yeah, agreed. Like a transitional. It's transitional for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and of course, like when it comes to challenging creatively, like I do that with YouTube. Like obviously, us doing this podcast together is a creative challenge. Like we do it every week. Usually, we have to take creative breaks for our obviously creative well-being, and I think every artist does that to some degree or another. Beyond that, it's also my goal to at least do one regular video per week if I can, you know. Um, so let's talk a little bit about what NaNoWrimo is. What is it, Ari?
So it's a challenge from November 1st to November 30th. Within that month, you write 50,000 words. That's generally the accepted is 50,000 words, and you can write about anything you want. You can do pre-planning before the month. That's usually what Prep November is, Preptober.
Prepped. Oh,
Uh,
I love that.
so people will get ready in October or before that to like get ready for the novel writing month, because there are two types of people in NaNoWrimo. There are the plansters and there are the pantsters. And plansters are people who plan ahead, and pantsters are people who just go by the seat of their pants and they're just trying to figure it all out as they go. So you can do both. I have done both. It is more difficult to be a pantster because you have to like on the fly just kind of figure it out. This year I'm a planster. I definitely have like where the story is going and where it's going to end up. Um, so uh, it gives you it has its own challenges too, because I'll write a plot point and then I'll like digress into like a 5,000 word plot point that's like a subplot. And so you do have like room to like wiggle around with it, but like most of the time you're just kind of like within that purview. So 50,000 words in a month. If you win, you get a nice little badge, and you get badges along the way saying like you reached the 5 and 10 and 20,000, 25,000 mark, and then the 50,000 mark. So like you get badges along the way, and then if you check into the website every day, you get to update your word count, which is they describe it like a Fitbit for word tracking. um, you basically can like get badges for doing checking in the first day, and then the third day, and then like the seventh day, and then so on throughout the month. So
That is so cool. Like, see, I've done NaNoWriMo before, but I've never used the website. Like, I've just kind of like done it like in a document on my own, like my own tracking. But like, they kind of like, it sounds like they make it really fun.
right, there's a little meter bar that goes up to 50,000 words, and it just like it fills up. Here, let me show you.
Yeah, do a screen share. Ari now has the
Um,
ability to screen share everyone. Is that not the most exciting thing ever?
so let's see. Uh, so here's the cover of my book.
Is
but
that
above it,
not? That's so stunning.
but above it, they have like a little tab bar that shows you how far along you are. So like I'm like a quarter of the way done with my book so far. But here are some of the badges I've gotten. I haven't gotten a 7-day badge because I missed some days. So I think today, if I update, I'll get the 7-day badge. But there's 1421. I've reached at least 10,000 words. I get 2 more badges, and then the wrote 50,000 words in November. That's like the ultimate badge. Everybody wants that one. So yeah,
That is so cool.
and then what
Um,
happens is you join groups. Oh, sorry, I
no,
cut you off.
no, you go ahead. Keep going.
So there are groups that you can sign up for. So I'm in Muskegon County, so I signed up for the Muskegon one. And sometimes I know in like bigger cities they do like events. So like you can like go in with like your laptop or like your phone or whatever you write on. And I did have my stuff in a Google document for a while. So what you do is you show up and then you like all sit together and do like word sprints. And they have like a button for word sprints. But basically like you time yourself for like 20 minutes or like an hour, and like you just try to write as much as possible within that time period, and it's like a motivating thing.
That is like phenomenal. I did not know all of this.
Yeah. I They sell merchandise through the shop. I have never bought the merchandise, but I have gotten Halo, which is you donating. You get a little halo over your icon. It says that you are a donor and that you've done so many good things, and that you're a good person. I did not get the Halo this year so far. I have not donated, but I plan on donating outside of NaNoWrimo. So
That's so cool. So, I'm gonna do a share screen if that's okay, because I think that's a great transition into talking about the history of NaNoWrimo a little bit. Because honestly, I did not realize that NaNoWrimo was a nonprofit. It is a nonprofit that believes your story matters. It believes in the transformational power of creativity by providing structure, community, and encouragement. Apparently it originated in 1999. Like, I knew that it had originated some time ago, but I didn't realize that it had this degree of history. Um, as a nonprofit, it supports writing fluency, education, but it's also a social network for writers, like LinkedIn is for job professionals or DeviantArt is for artists, so on and so forth. So I just think it's really cool. Um, and I just like it goes through and shows like a bunch of the different like programs and regions, so on and so forth. There's like a lot of like articles and stuff. You can like become a volunteer, you can donate here. I knew that it was significant, but I guess I didn't realize how big it was. Um and it has so many partnerships. Like I think like it's just mind-bogglingly cool to me. So now, Ari, can a person start late?
Yes, and they do. You just have to write more words in a month. And so, like, I'm really behind right now. Where am I at right now? Let me check my stats. So, in order for me to finish on time, because I'm just a little bit behind where I'm supposed to be, I'm about 3,000 words behind where I'm supposed to be today. In order for me to finish the month on time, I have to write 17,042 or 1,742 words, so 1,742. Usually the general consensus is that you write 1,667 a day. So I'm just a little bit above where I'm supposed to be in order to finish within the month.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, obviously if you don't write, it's going to go up. So if you start really late, you have to write like a lot every day, but it's doable.
I think I could do it. I'm really thinking about like because what I've been doing is I've been doing what I call Nove Poember.
I love no poemer.
Instead of because remember I used to do like Octopoember all the time. Like I would write like a poem per day. I didn't get to do that through October because I spent the entire month editing a collection of poems, preparing marketing materials, so on and so forth. So that really ate up a lot of my creative energy. So my goal is to, I don't know, like I want to do a collection of poems, but I really want to get into fiction writing again. I even want to write Godzilla fan fiction again so badly. Maybe I'll use Nanowrimo to write some Godzilla fan fiction.
Yep, 20,000 word fanfic. You could totally get
Damn
it
it.
done.
Oh
You
yeah,
have time.
I could definitely, and I already have one started, so that would be perfect.
Technically, you're supposed to start a new one, but
Oh
I'm not
shit.
judgy.
Yeah, you're right. I could start a new one. I could do that. I've had some ideas. I just need to suddenly put my fingers on the keys and get going. So it's all you really can do, you know.
Yeah.
So, Ari, talk a little bit about your history in writing NaNoWriMo.
Oh my
Like,
God. So I have so much history.
yeah, what have you done in the past?
Um, Let me see. Let me pull up all my books.
While you're doing that, Leo's like, I want to write a collab kaiju fanfic with you so badly, Donny. I know. I need like I see. I want to do collabs too. It's just, my creative focus has been so much in poetry for such a long time.
Uh, so so I've finished two books, but I've started in 2009.
Yeah, I think
So
I saw that your account said that you have gone back all the way to 2009. That's so cool.
yeah, and I didn't used to it didn't used to track your projects. But now, like since 2011, they were tracking projects. So so I finished one called Many Faces, Many Doors. And later I changed that to calling it Escape Mask. That's about a guy who is about 30 years old and he's just starting his master's degree. Like he started late in college because he had an overbearing mother. And so he goes to university and he's really socially awkward. He's like really has a hard time like socializing. So he joins a LARP group, and so it talks about like the LARP and like how cool the LARP is, but it also talks about like the people in the LARP, and he falls in love with somebody who's in the LARP group. And so it's about his like relationship to her and like how he like falls in love with her. And so it's pretty good. It definitely I definitely was very proud of myself when I finished that book, because it's actually a pretty decent book, and I feel like I should edit it and get it done and like publish it, but I was just like, I'll just write it and that's fine.
So on the NaNoWriMo website, can like people go and find your books and read them? Like, is
No, it's literally just talks about the projects. Like, if you want to read my books, just contact me and I'll let you do a read through of them. But you can see what projects I've done over the years on my
okay. I
on
just didn't
my
know like what degree of like out there-ness they would do. Like, is it like fanfiction.net where you can like search anything? Apparently it's not. Like it tries to maintain some degree of like um
privacy.
privacy, which I think that's good. Because let's be honest, how many people plagiarize on these different websites? I've had people plagiarize my Godzilla fan fiction
Hmm.
before. Like there is a person, it's actually a couple of people, about like 5 or 6 years ago. Somebody messaged me with a screenshot on my Godzilla site, Kaiju Galaxy, and they were like, Donnie, somebody is plagiarizing your Godzilla fanfics and posts like copying, pasting them, posting them themselves, and saying that it's their work.
What?
Yeah, so I went on to fanfiction.net and raised hellfire and brimstone and they got banned. But I was just like, why would you? You're plagiarizing Godzilla fan fiction? Like, what are you
It's a
doing?
small knit community. Like, why would you even do that? Yeah.
It was ridiculous. But so tell me more about your history with it.
So my book, David Lynch's After Me, this one right here that you can buy on Amazon, I wrote that as a NaNoWriMo in 1 month.
Didn't you say you wrote that? Was it last year or the year before?
In 2018.
Oh, so a couple years, 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
That's so
Uh,
cool.
I didn't do a project last year. I started to do a project and I only got about 1,000 words in it. Um, but yeah, most of the time I get to about 30,000 words. And then I'm just like, I can't do this anymore. I'm just done. I'm done. But sometimes I don't even make it to 10,000 words. It's like there are two hurdles. There's like 10,000 words and 30,000 words. And when you get to those two places, or like 30,000 words, when you get to those two places, it's sort of like you have to get over the hump and keep
Mm-hmm.
writing. Otherwise, it's just like so exhausting. But like, there have been some years where I didn't even get to 3,000 words because I was just like, I started with a concept and then I was just like, oh, this is terrible. And then I'm like, I don't have any other ideas, so I'm just not going to do it.
Well, I'm hoping that this year you can keep yourself focused on the end result. And it seems like you're doing pretty well so far. So,
Well, I had this idea for a NaNoWriMo. It's called the Red Queen Saga. There are 5 books that I'm planning on writing for the Red Queen Saga. One for each stage of grief. So I have the first one is called Denial. That's why it's called Denial. So I've been planning these probably since about like 2007. It's just like I haven't sat down and written it. And it came because I had a dream once, and it was like a 12-hour dream about everything. Like it just like spread out into that 12 hours. And I just kept, like, I would wake up and then I'd go back to sleep and I would continue with the same dream. And it did this for like 12 hours.
that is so cool. Definitely a sign too. I think that's probably why like your mind was like, Ari, what are you doing? Like this needs to be happening.
Right. And it just it was so intricate and it was just like so unique, and I was just like I have to do something with this. So I tried writing it before, out of order, where I would write just a little bit from each book, and then I would jump around. But then I realized that I needed to just sit down and write it in order.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I mean, I guess there's like over a decade's worth of motivation behind it this year. So,
Hmm.
and I think if you keep doing those live streams, like that might be a good way to kind of like track your progress, hold yourself accountable, be like, okay, I've already done all this. Why not just keep going? Right.
Right.
That's a really good idea.
And I think that like after the month is over, I'm probably gonna keep writing and do like another 50,000 words next month and just write
Ooh,
all 5 of them like within the next year.
that's a really good idea. That way you'll have like regular releases, right? When you want to publish them.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. The next J.K. Rowling, but non-transphobic, of course. Watch, I'm gonna get like 10 haters hating on me for that.
That's fine.
It's okay. I enjoy a good banter with a hit troll.
But I only have done covers for 2 years. Most of the time, I don't do covers. I did one for The Bitter Earth, which was a sequel to Escape Room or Escape Mask. And then I did one for Denial this year.
I I love the cover. Like I'm low key obsessed with it. Just saying.
I made it in Canva, and I love Canva. Canva's great.
Canva is pretty amazing. So Leo says, I think this was probably in response to my fan fiction thing, saying you're popular enough to get plagiarized. What an honor. I never thought of that. Like honestly, I used to kind of have a fan fiction following, like in the mid to late 2000s. Obviously, since it's been like so long, that probably isn't happening anytime soon. So my history with NaNoWriMo, so this is really bad. This is a confession time. So my first experience with NaNoWriMo was kind of writing a gay smut piece of fiction.
Yay for smut!
And it's on DeviantArt. Um,
What?
so if any of you deep in the recesses know my DeviantArt, you'll be able to find it. It was called Sordid Intentions. If that does not sound like a gay smut title, I don't know what does.
That sounds amazing.
Wait, was it that or was it another thing? I think that's what it was. Yeah, I think that's what it was called.
How
I've done
many
like
words did it have?
I think I had like a good 2 or 3 chapters in. So I'm guessing maybe like 10 to 15,000 words
Mm-hmm.
ish. Nothing like super extravagant. You know, I'm going to look for it right now because I need to remember what it was or else it's going to drive me bananas. But beyond that, like I've had years where I've like tried writing Godzilla fanfics during NaNoWriMo, but then I just stopped doing it for the longest time and just focused entirely on poetry. I really like my heart is always in poetry, but I do have instances where I really do miss writing pieces of fiction. So, okay, let me look at this. I think it is Sorted Intentions. Yep, it's sort I can't even look at it.
Do a screen share. I want to see it.
Okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
Let's see
I'll
it.
Ari, I think we should read excerpts from Okay, I just DeviantArt is really non-user friendly these days. 1 second. I can't believe I'm doing this.
Yay!
Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay. Sordid Intentions, Chapter 1, Snapshots. Let me find like a good let's
Oh, it's
see.
definitely wordy.
Yeah. It wasn't too bad. Inhaling deeply, Xavier, if that's not the most stereotypical name, shook the thought from his mind and took out his camera once again. He scrolled through his older pictures, several photos boasting close up shots of various ice cream concoctions he created at Cold Stone Creamery, displayed the different flavors and decorations. Cold Stone was his first job ever, and he enjoyed every moment of it. After carefully scanning the photos, he noticed a male standing in the background, leaning against the wall of one of the images. Xavier noticed that it was one of the store's regulars who always came in around 10 a.m. every morning, usually ordering either a strawberry smoothie or an Oreo swirl. Oddly enough, Xavier worked most weekdays from 9 to 3, so seeing this man was a daily occurrence. Xavier could feel his cell vibrating in his other pocket. He took out the small flip phone and noticed a text from his mother. "Are you coming home?" He replied, "Almost home." Xavier quickened his pace, knowing that he had stayed out a bit longer than usual. 9 o'clock came early the next morning, though the prospect of working seemed a bit less daunting.
Yay!
And we know why it seemed less daunting, because this mysterious man
was in the background of his
was
pictures.
in the
Ooh,
background.
who's this
Yeah.
guy?
I know. I'm trying to remember what the other character's name was. Let me find it. Xavier and I cannot believe I just shared this. It's so bad. Mind you, if you ever read it, it's super inappropriate. I think his name is Darren. Yep, it's Darren. Anyway, Ari, do you want to show a bit of your current NaNoWriMo book? Which probably is going to sound way better than mine. My old, ancient, sordid intentions.
One of the books, I'll share a couple of books that I wrote. I'm actually like looking them up right now.
Yes. Sordid intention. I just looked because on DeviantArt you can view like how many times your books have been or your writing's been viewed. Sordid intentions almost has 1,000 views. Woo!
Okay,
Written
so
back in
let's see here.
2011.
Let's go with the earliest one. Hang on a sec. Okay. So this is Many Doors, Many Faces.
Love it.
It starts off when Sam opened the door to the apartment. He realized he had released 1,000 dust mites into the air, and when opening the window shade allowed the hot July afternoon to enter, they became illuminated orbs randomly bouncing. Sam briefly wondered about the French enlightenment as his mother noisily dropped a box onto the floor, panting. Startled, Sam turned towards her, the dust mites beginning to cling to him.
I love it. I like it really hones in on these like existential dust mites.
Let's see the next one. 2013. This one was called Sisters. We have a dedication page on there.
Ooh, it's 44,000 words too. You were really close.
Mm-hmm. My older sister, whose fiery temperament matched her engine red hair, has tempted me, since before I can even remember, to be so bold as to eventually do something incredibly daring and something incredibly stupid, the most memorable of which usually ended up being both. However, this has been tempered by the fact that she, on several occasions, liked to tease and antagonize me. For example, there was a time when I was about 6 or 7, perhaps as old as 10, when she had convinced me that she was a vampire and that she was coming to eat me.
I love it. Ah, my sister Rasp. Her hair red and wild and straw-like in the midnight hour. I love that description. This is like gothy perfection.
So this book is about two sisters who basically like everybody gets kind of bored, and so like those they two are like one of the last few humans left in the world. And so they call it the bitter note because everybody who is in unison is singing in the harmony or the choir. But if you are not part of that, it's called the bitter note.
Interesting.
So it's very interesting. I definitely wrote it about my my way of life in 2013 when I was working as a it starts off where I'm working in a call lab, and that's basically what I was doing, is working in a call center. And so it talks about how stressful that was, and basically how I quit my job and went home, and then the end of the world happened.
Oh God.
Which technically I did quit my job, but I didn't go home. I went to the Grand Canyon.
So metaphorically, the end of the world happened.
I'm not sure if I should share in 2014 because so it's a sequel to Sisters. It's real racy. We're gonna look at this. It's called Lovers. So they talk about having sex like right away, and it's kind of smutty. Fiona leaned up and gently kissed his long neck, sucking on Lyndall as she lay down on her bed. She moved to the edge of the bed as she spread her legs apart and rose her body up to rest on her elbows. Okay, enough of that.
That is amazing. That is amazing. I like Sordid Intentions has some moments like that because, as you know, this Darren dude is this mysterious vampiric individual.
So this is from the Bitter Earth. This one is a bit more straightforward. Rory couldn't breathe at first when she realized what she had done halfway down the block, heading mostly everything she possessed toward her car at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday. She doubled over, dropping the plastic grocery sacks filled with clothes and books, trinkets and pictures, paper and shoes onto the pavement, unable to breathe, her breath coming in ragged splinters through her teeth.
Those descriptions are really good.
Yeah, basically, so what happened in this book, it starts off with a woman who is leaving her boyfriend who is abusive. And so she basically has like $80 to her name, and like I go through each of the dollar, like how she's spending her money. Like she's staying at a cheap motel that's only like $20 a night or something like that. And then she like gets food and groceries and stuff. And I'm like trying to be as realistic about this as possible because it's like the early 90s or mid 90s. So it's just fascinating to see it. But then she gets a job at a coffee shop, and the woman who works with her at the coffee shop was in the first book, Many Faces, Many Doors, or Escape Mask. And I stopped writing it around the time she gets murdered, her coworker. So it's just basically like, I can't handle this anymore. It's too realistic because I had a coworker who was murdered. And so like, it just was a little bit too much.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that sounds intense.
It was very intense. I also have the Modern Mythology, which I wrote in a month, and I did some editing on it, so it's only 46,000 words here. But I got to the 50,000 mark, and this was back in 2008, 2009.
Wow, that's a while ago.
Yeah, it was. I think it was the first NaNoWrimo that I ever completed. So basically, it's a myth. And let me get back to the top. When I was a young girl, this is the story the elders told to me, or once upon a time. And it just talks about like history. But
That's so cool.
yeah, I loved that book. That one, that's like really influenced me later on. And I reference it in a lot of my works. I reference modern mythology. If you read David Lynch's After Me, I actually quote the modern mythology because it was so impactful during my first episode.
Mm-hmm. Didn't you reference it in Full of Now as well in some degree?
I did, yep.
Yeah, because I
Mercury
remember
spread
that was a
his hands
theme.
through the world, yep.
Mm-hmm. Parallels. I love it.
So then finally we come to this year's NaNoWriMo, which is Denial. And some of the formatting is off on this because I had it in a Google Doc, so I need to fix the formatting on it. But I'll read you the first line. Ella played with the toy robots in her father's office as they skirted along the floor. She happily ran between them, picking them up as she went. It was a sunny day at the manor, and light streamed through the windows into the office, revealing dust coming up in plumes, dancing around the room over the stacks of papers where Ella made her forts for the robots, sending them off tables and the large desk in the center of the room. She would gather the small bots into her hand and lay them out in rows, gleefully sending them to their death marches into the wild unknown, only to catch them and start again.
Ooh. That's so dark, but also like very like the combination of dark and like innocent at the same time.
So basically, what Denial is about a young girl who's the daughter of a scientist, and he develops AI technology which gains consciousness and starts destroying humanity, like all over the world, because everybody basically has a robot to do all of their bidding and like chores and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so she escapes, but the leader of the robots is the Red Queen, who is this woman who comes as like a harbinger of doom. She's basically a monster, but she's in human form, and she basically like is out to kill the main character Ella, who's the young girl, who's escaping into the woods. And so I'm having certain like it took a hard left from like sci-fi with the robots into fantasy, because she just where I'm at in the book right now is she just had stepped into a fairy circle in the center of the woods, and several months had passed. And then she came out and it was wintertime and she was about to freeze to death when Bigfoot rescued her. And Bigfoot is this interdimensional being that it has come from a long race of people who came like before, and he's like almost immortal, I think. But
That is so interesting. I love that shift.
so that's where I'm at right now. Is she's talking to Ben, the Bigfoot, the interdimensional being.
Oh my goodness. This is so awesome. I'm glad that we're able to like especially look at your history with writing these, because it just proves that like all it takes is determination, right?
Right, because they're all different.
Right, and that doesn't have to be like a recycling of what you do. Like you can start fresh every single time.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, so we do have a few discussion questions to go through now that we have about like maybe 10 minutes or 12 minutes left.
Sure.
So what are the benefits of doing challenges like NaNoWrimo or others like Inktober and Octopoember?
So basically, the benefit of doing NaNoWrimo is it motivates me to write a book every year at least. And I'm getting one out every year pretty reliably, or at least close to reliably. And some of them have not quite finished, but I finish them outside of the month, or I work on them outside of the month. It just gets you motivated to start and to do it. and to really like, and it gets you thinking about stuff that's new, because like sometimes I sit down without having an idea about what I'm going to write, but it just like flows out of me, and like some of the stuff that I come up with, I'm like surprised about.
Well, like it proves that you're capable, right? Like, I know for me, like, it proves that I can produce the work and that it's not a chore, it's something to challenge myself to aspire to. Like especially when I do like act poem, that's like both of my books, Carbon Footprint and Feats of Alchemy, largely were composed or finished through act poem.
Hmm.
Last year, 2020, about a third of Feats of Alchemy was written in the month of October. Before that, October 2019, was it 2019? Yeah, 2019. Most of Carbon Footprint was written. So like it just shows that you can create a body of work and shape a theme that you may want to shape. I love it.
Hmm.
Um so do you think challenges like this may set unrealistic expectations on ourselves, or do you view this as a do what you can sort of thing?
I think it depends on everyone. I think that it's something to aspire to. That if you can't quite, because I don't think that the denial is going to make it to 50,000 words, but I'm aspiring to make it 50,000 words at least, and that's fine. Like it's, as long as I'm writing, I think that that's like the end goal, is that I'm trying to do something.
Right, I like that. I completely agree with that. I've learned like it's taken me time, but I've learned to set aside those expectations. I think we as writers often are the most rigorous when it comes to placing expectations on ourselves, like unhealthy expectations sometimes.
Hmm.
Like for example, I expected my second book to be like a carbon copy, no pun intended, of the first one, but it's not, like, and it's not supposed to be. It's meant to exist on its own, and the creation process behind it is meant to be separate.
Hmm.
And I think that's important to, like, I kind of think of the books that we write as like a musician's eras. Each musician has like an era surrounding like each album they produce. I kind of think of that as the same concept with writing too.
Nice.
So we've already talked about how you track progress. So you use the NaNoWrimo website to track progress, right?
Yeah.
I used to use like Excel spreadsheets sometimes to track progress,
Oh, that's
and
really smart.
um it like I liked it, but it almost became more work than writing itself, if that makes sense, because like I would try to like do projections, and then it became so much like I started obsessing more so over the numbers than the actual written content.
Mhm.
And I think that kind of took away from what I was trying to do. So now that I see that like the NaNoWrimo website does that type of thing, that kind of motivates me more to try it out, because if someone else is tracking the statistics for me, that takes that burden off of me and that distraction, right?
Right.
So, how do you schedule yourself when you're writing?
Basically, so on NaNoWrimo, they actually track when you're most active writing. And it was, when I started the challenge, I was more active in the morning. Like I would wake up in the morning and I'd be like, I'm gonna write 3,000 words today. And so I did for a while, but then I fell kind of out of it, because as you go along, it's just like you get more exhausted, and it's like that first hump of like 10,000 words is just like, it's a bummer. So I started writing in the evening after the day was done, after I did cleaning and I got the house under control and I had dinner, and I would sit down and write like 1,600 words at night. So now my active time is like from 10 to 11, just before the numbers are due for the day.
See, like, well, it's because a lot of us writers also work best under pressure, right?
Mhm.
If we have a due date or something or a deadline, it's like, oh. um, so for me, I guess the only like schedule I kind of set for myself is like trying to write right now, trying to write a poem a day, but usually it's like trying to write a poem per week. Now, when it comes to fiction writing, I might like at some point I might bounce some ideas off of me because I really struggle with like kind of setting a schedule for myself.
Mhm.
Because for me, I kind of think of like, well, whatever splats onto the page, splats onto the page. I'm not gonna like force myself to write or not. But then I also realize that sometimes like even if you do force yourself to write, like that's still writing and you can come back to it and adjust it if need be. That's the beauty of doing rough drafts, right?
Have you seen the NaNoWriMo Facebook group?
I have
Because
not.
if you also need other people to bounce ideas off, not just me, because there are so many other people out there writing at all times of the year,
Mhm.
you can join the Facebook group and put a post up, and people will respond to you.
Oh my gosh, I need to go join that Facebook group. It would be nice to have like other fiction writers to bounce back on. That would be awesome. Um, so when you failed at NaNoWrimo or any other challenge, what was the biggest thing stopping you?
So for me, the when I would fail the challenge, it's the word count. It just I get somewhere in the story and I'm at like 10,000 words, and it called the bridge. So like you have one event and then you have another event in the novel, and you have to bridge the gap between those two events of things you want to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the bridge is usually a low period of like inaction and stuff. And so I would get caught up in the word count and like I have to stretch this bridge to like 5,000 words. And it it's sort of like you're drudging your feet through those 5,000 words because it's just like, oh, this part is so boring. Like nobody cares. Nobody's going to care about this. But then when you read it later, you're like, that bridge was like super important.
Right, because it's development at the end of the day, right?
Right.
For me, challenge-wise, getting too caught up in the numbers. That's always been a challenge of mine in every creative outlet. YouTube, poetry, fiction writing, getting caught up in the numbers because when I look at numbers of that measure me, I think of that as like an extension of uh how to say it, of my capability, of my worth, right? So like I've had to get to a point where I have to like completely ignore the numbers in order to produce. Because if I don't, then I'm gonna get so caught up and then I'm gonna be like, well, why bother?
Yeah.
You know? That actually almost stopped me from finishing Feats of Alchemy, but I managed to, get my crap together and get that done.
Mhm.
So, when you succeeded, what motivated you to keep going?
Other people helping me along the way. The little bar for NaNoWriMo filling up. It was just like, ooh, exciting. For David Lynch's After Me, when I wrote that one, what motivated me to keep going was I had a story to tell, and it was really important, and I was just going to keep going until it was done.
I love that. I love that. For me, uh, when I succeeded, what kept me going, like, so I'm gonna expand out beyond just talking about NaNoWrimo, of course, because
Hmm.
for me, thinking of Octolimber.
Yeah.
So when Carbon Footprint was released and I saw how successful it was, like being able to see that, and see how supportive people were, I think that's what helped motivate me to keep going. Because it made me feel like my writing was something that I could share in some meaningful way, right? Um, so that was really motivational for me. I really liked being able to do that. But also like the catharsis. Like being able to produce that work and see it, hold it in my hands, and also kind of relieve myself of those different difficult topics. Like that really made me enjoy that feeling to the extent where, like, hey, I want to experience this feeling again, but in a different way, right?
Nice.
So do NaNoWriMo books make good books?
I don't know. Sometimes they do, sometimes they're just crap, and it's just you getting out there and being creative and just doing it. But sometimes the books make good books. It just depends on the year and depends on what you're writing and depends on how well you planned it out and depends on the editing later on. But Water for Elephants was a NaNoWriMo book. The Night Circus, I believe, was a NaNoWriMo book too.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's really cool. See, and it just shows that the process works. It has the potential to work for people,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, Now, the final question. Do you have to do NaNoWriMo in November?
No, you can do NaNoWriMo anytime you want to. You can it could be March and you can be like, I'm gonna create a new challenge. I'm gonna write 50,000 words in March. And you can just totally make that challenge and it'll ask you for a time period, how many words you want to do, and it'll do it for you.
I
So
love that.
you don't have to do it in November. Most people do it in November, but you're not required to.
Like, I think it's nice to do it in November because you have that shared experience, like where you can like have that encouragement, measure that success. Um, but like I think it's really nice, like at least for me, I like to spread out small challenges for myself throughout the year. It doesn't, I mean, it could be just a week challenge or maybe a span of a couple of days, like write 3 poems in 2 days, something to that effect, right? Um, I think as writers, our biggest obstacle is setting goals for ourselves because we measure our success based on consumerism and commercialism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we could do a whole other stream about that topic in of itself, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that really does inhibit a lot of artists, including writers, 100%. So, Ari, as we finish this evening, what parting wise words do you have for our listeners tonight?
Uh, right, because it's the right thing to do.
Mic drop. I love it. That is the best ending ever. All right, my friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tune in next week. I do want to do one shameless self promotion really quickly before I forget, because I nearly forgot. So let's see. Am I able to do it? Maybe. I don't think I can. Why can't I do it? So, okay, I'll just share. Um, so next week, not well, yeah, it's next Friday. I'm going to be doing a reading on my poetry channel at 8 p.m. I'm going to be featuring selections from my current book, Feats of Alchemy. So feel free to tune into my Donny Speaks channel and listen in. I would greatly appreciate the support over there. So, yay!
Yay!
All right. Well, you all have a wonderful night, and we will see you next week. Love you.
Bye.
Bye.